In a quiet town nestled by a vast river, there lived a woman named Esther. Known for her glowing smile and calm demeanor, Esther was a source of comfort and wisdom to everyone who met her. No matter the circumstances, she radiated joy and peace. One day, a young farmer named Caleb approached her. Burdened by failed crops and mounting debts, he asked, "Esther, how can you always be so happy? Don't you ever feel weighed down by life's hardships?" Esther smiled softly and said, "Caleb, joy doesn't come from what we have or what happens around us. It comes from within and, most importantly, from trusting God's promises. Let me share a story from my life. When I was a young woman," she began, "I married a kind man named Samuel. Though we were poor, we had enough to live on, and we were content. But one harsh winter, Samuel fell gravely ill. We couldn't afford the medicine he needed, and within weeks, he passed away." Caleb's eyes widened in empathy. "How did you find joy again after losing him?" "It wasn't easy," Esther admitted. "For months, I mourned. But one day, as I read the Psalms, I came across these words, 'Weeping may stay for the night, but rejoicing comes in the morning.' Psalm chapter 30 verse 5. I realized that while sorrow is inevitable, it doesn't last forever. God's mercies are new every morning." Esther continued, "From that day, I decided to focus on the blessings I still had. Every morning, I made it a habit to thank God for at least one thing. Some days, it was as simple as the sunrise or the sound of birdsong. Other days, it was the kindness of a neighbor or a loaf of bread on my table. As 1 Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 18 teaches us, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus." Caleb frowned. "But what about days when everything seems to go wrong? How can you be grateful then?" Esther nodded knowingly. "Those days are the hardest. But even then, I remind myself of this truth, this too shall pass." Ecclesiastes chapter 3 verse 1 says, "There is a time for everything, and a season for every activity under the heavens." Even in sorrow, God is preparing something beautiful. Caleb thought for a moment and asked, "So, happiness is a choice?" "Yes," Esther replied. "It's not about ignoring pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about trusting God's plan and finding His blessings even in the smallest things. I've learned to say with confidence, 'The Lord is my strength and my shield. My heart trusts in Him, and He helps me.' Psalm chapter 28 verse 7. Caleb smiled faintly. "I think I understand. It's about focusing on what you still have, not what you've lost." Esther beamed. "Exactly, Caleb. When we choose gratitude, our perspective changes. And when our perspective changes, so does our life." Caleb left Esther's home that day with a renewed spirit. He began each morning by thanking God for one blessing. At first, it was difficult, but over time, he found himself noticing more and more to be grateful for. Soon, others in the village began to follow his example. A struggling merchant gave thanks for loyal customers. A widow found joy in the laughter of her grandchildren. Bit by bit, the entire village transformed, all because one woman chose to live out her faith. Esther's story reminds us of the power of gratitude and trust in God. As Philippians chapter 4 verse 12-13 says, I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation. I can do all this through Him who gives me strength. Life's challenges are inevitable, but our response defines our happiness. By choosing joy, focusing on God's blessings, and trusting His plan, we can find peace in every season. Like Esther, may we live each day with a grateful heart, declaring, "This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it." Psalm chapter 118 verse 24. Happiness is not the absence of hardship, it is the presence of faith. Choose joy today, and let God's peace transform your life.